Hello and welcome to Dad and Swebb Talk Sports. I'm
And I'm
Swebb,
Dad.
and we are the dad and daughter duo talking about all of our favorite sports moments from the week. Dad, what is up?
A lot of stuff, Swab, a lot of stuff. My phone's been blowing up the last 12 hours.
We are recording on a Sunday afternoon, and there's been a lot of sports news. Should we start things off with the big NBA trade?
That's a great place to start.
So, I think it was the middle of the night because I saw a text at about 2 a.m. on Sunday morning. But there was a three-team trade between the Los Angeles Lakers, the Dallas Mavericks, and the Utah Jazz. Now, the big pieces of the trade, the Los Angeles Lakers are getting Luka Doncic. He is a five-time NBA All-Star and a five-time first-team NBA. 25-year-old who has been the face of the Dallas Mavericks. He's going to the Los Angeles Lakers. Along with him is Maxi Kleber and Markieff Morris. Now, Dallas Mavericks are getting Anthony Davis. That's really the cornerstone of this trade. He is a 31-year-old, 10-time All-Star, 4-time All-NBA first team, NBA champion, 3-time NBA All-Defensive first team. Along with him, the Utah Jazz are in this. They're not really big players in this, but they're getting Jalen Hood-Schifino and then 2 second-round picks for this upcoming draft. So the big pieces here, essentially, the Dallas Mavericks get Anthony Davis, and the Los Angeles Lakers get Luka Doncic. I think the whole NBA world was shocked.
They were shocked because these are two of the top 10 players in the whole league, and they were traded for one another. The trade broke about 1 a.m. Of course, I was awake, Sweb, and one of those texts you got was from me. I never got any response, so I figured you were out cold. And then my phone started blowing up. People couldn't believe it. People thought it was an April Fool's joke. Because nobody knew. This was like nobody knew. Nobody on the Lakers knew. Nobody on Dallas knew. LeBron James didn't know that his buddies got traded. No one knew. He was out to dinner in New York City when this broke.
So the to give everyone a little bit more context, the Los Angeles Lakers are in New York. They played the New York Knicks at MSG on Saturday night. This trade happens a few hours after the game. Anthony Davis this year for the Lakers has averaged 25.7 points per game, 11.9 rebounds, and 3.4 assists. Luka Doncic, 28 points per game, 8.3 rebounds per game, and 7.8 assists per game. He was the scoring champion in the league last year as well. So I think a lot of people were shocked. One, because as a Dallas Mavericks fan, Luka Doncic brought your team along with other players, but really put the team on his back to bring them to the NBA Finals last year. They played against the Boston Celtics. Now, they lost that series, but they ended up making this deep run into the playoffs last year. You would think that they would continue to stick with a 25-year-old player who's already a 5-time All-Star and 5-time All-NBA first team. So I think a lot of people were shocked. The other thing about this is it seems like the Lakers got a better deal in this trade, a way better deal, because Anthony Davis, although has great stats, when he's healthy, he's a top 10 player in the league. The problem is he's had a lot of injuries over the course of his career, and now he's 31 and he's on the back end of his career. And he missed the game on Saturday night against the Knicks because of injury. So I think a lot of people were shocked. I was looking on Twitter because, to put this into context, someone said, tell me what this trade means if I'm a female who doesn't pay attention to sports. And someone said, it's like Destiny's Child trading Beyonce to TLC, which is an R&B / rap band from the 90s, to TLC for Chili, who was not the face of that trio. So it seems like the Lakers really got a good deal out of this. I think also, as we're starting to put more of the pieces together, right? Because this news came out in the middle of the night. Everyone wakes up thinking that, like you said, this was April Fool's. Why? Why trade away a 25-year-old face of the franchise, generational player to the Lakers for seemingly nothing. There have been other trades. The Knicks had to trade away 5 draft picks to get Mikal Bridges, right? So you're trading away this star player in the league for not a lot. So I think it has a lot of people scratching their heads.
I'll tell you the reason, Swebb. Luka hasn't played since Christmas. He, too, misses a lot of time due to injury. He's only 25. He's never in shape. He looks like the Pillsbury Doughboy. He's a tremendous player, but he doesn't take care of himself. He's always overweight. And next year, if Dallas had kept him, they owed him $345 million contract for 5 years, a supermax contract. And they didn't want to take a chance and give a guy that's never in shape, that misses a lot of games due to injuries, $345 million. They got to the NBA Finals last year with him, but they figure go out, get Anthony Davis, who's out with an abdominal strain right now. He's not going to be out long. Last year he played most of the games. This year he's played most of the games. Bring him in. He's a tremendous defensive player. He can play as a natural position, which is power forward. They have 2 other big men, so they can go with 3 big men, 2 big men, real good shot blockers, real good defenders. And Anthony Davis is signed for 2 more years, and they probably figure, along with Kyrie Irving, they can win a championship this year or next year. That's why they're going for that.
I don't disagree with you on whether they felt like Luka wasn't going to re-sign with the Mavericks or whether the Mavericks didn't want to give him that size contract. There was definitely something there. But why not shop the market a little bit more? This happens in the middle of the night. There was no news of Dallas considering trading Luka, right? So I would think if you have a player like Luka Doncic, you want to let it be known that, hey, he's on the market to potentially be traded, to see what other teams could provide a better mix for you to get back in return. I wouldn't say that this is an awful trade for Dallas, but I would just think if you felt like you weren't going to re-sign Luka, whether it was on his end or on the team's end, why wouldn't you make it more of a public thing that, hey, this player who people would have thought was untouchable. That's why everyone's shocked, because people would have thought that a 25-year-old superstar athlete is untouchable. He's available to be traded. So give us your best offer, because I think there would have been a few teams that could have put together something. I'm not sure how compelling it would have been, but could have put something together to make Dallas evaluate this a little bit more.
The Dallas GM and the Laker GM are very close friends. Dallas GM worked for Nike for close to 2 decades as an executive. And the Laker GM was an agent before he became the Laker GM. And they worked a lot of deals together. They didn't want everybody to know about this. They wanted to do it like a Pearl Harbor attack.
So this is my issue. They're friends, so we decided to do a deal amongst each other. Was this the best deal? As a fan of the Dallas Mavericks, right? Is this the best deal that I could have gotten as a fan watching every day or as a season ticket holder? Do I feel like the organization truly made the best deal possible and put us in a better situation than we were yesterday?
They probably got...
That's the question that I would ask as a fan.
Dallas probably got the best end of this deal. Luka hasn't played since Christmas. That's 5 weeks. He's out of shape. And being that he hasn't been able to run and stuff, I can imagine how much he weighs now. And the Lakers now have no big men of any significance.
That I agree. They are trading away their star power forward center for a guard. So yeah, they're going to be.
And there's a good possibility, even though LeBron James is probably still one of the best 10 players in the whole league, he might retire after this year. And the Lakers always go after big name superstar players, box office type players.
I'm not talking about the Lakers end of this. I think the Lakers got a great deal. I think they got a great deal. You can't poo-poo the fact that Luka Doncic is 25 years old and he's a 5-time All-Star. The guy is nasty. The Lakers got a great deal.
He might be nasty.
As the fan base, LeBron James is 40 years old. He's likely going to retire. Now the Lakers have their superstar that they can continue to develop around. If I'm a Dallas Mavericks fan, I'm not necessarily happy with this trade because you traded away our superstar for an old guy and a bunch of the other players in this deal.
He's not an old guy. He's still one of the top.
He's 31. He's one of the top players, but he's 31 and he has a history of injuries. The last 2 seasons, he's been relatively healthy, but he has a history of injuries. So if I'm a Dallas Mavericks fan, I'm scratching my head wondering, was this the best that we could have gotten?
Hey, if I'm a Dallas Mavericks fan, I'm saying, you know what? Let's strap it up, and maybe we have a chance to win a championship this year.
And here's the thing that I will remind you of as well, because you tend to have an analysis that's a little bit different than most other people who are fans of the game. I seem to remember someone at the start of the season not really being sold on the Karl Anthony Towns trade, the Knicks between the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Knicks trading away Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo for Karl Anthony Towns. I seem to remember you not really being a fan of that trade. Now you've since changed your opinions.
No.
Like, I just want to remind you of that.
No.
If we're really being honest about things,
wait a second.
I don't think your initial analysis of trades has been the most accurate.
Time out. I said at the beginning I didn't like the trade. Then, after I saw the work ethic and the way Mr. Towns goes about his business, I said I won't say anything bad about the guy. It has worked out good so far. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is last night's Knicks game and what happened last night. Okay?
I'm totally admitting that you changed your opinion after you saw him play in the lineup and you saw the way that he was working. Yes, that is part of this. I did say that. But what I'm saying is your initial opinion of the trade was not one that was very favorable of the trade, and it ended up working out. So now you're saying that Dallas is in a situation
we haven't got to the end
where they could be.
We haven't got to the end of the book yet. It hasn't worked out yet. This is what, February?
I am pointing out that your initial analysis on one blockbuster trade at the start of the season was off kilter. So for those people who like to tune in and know the X's and O's of the NBA, your analysis, to me, may be off kilter. We'll see. Only time will tell on both trades. But your initial analysis seems to be not the best. If I'm a Dallas Mavericks fan, I'm not happy this morning waking up knowing that my superstar guard is no longer on the team.
You still have another superstar
and
guard.
I will say of Luka Doncic 100% reminds me of some of the teammates that I had in college that were super talented, far more talented than anyone else, that didn't always work hard. Showed up late to practice, didn't give it 110% in practice, and still had, good performances in meets and stuff like that.
But
that is Luka Doncic.
Yeah, but how do you
Clearly,
win with people like that? This man is overweight at 25. You want to give him $345 million?
I don't think either team is going to win. All I'm saying is, as a fan, if Luka Doncic is on the table, I'd like for the front office to shop him around a little bit more to see if I'm truly getting the best deal out of the league. That's what I'm saying. So let's talk about the Knicks, because Saturday night they played against the Los Angeles Lakers at the Garden. They had come off of a 5-game win streak prior to that. Didn't have a great showing on Saturday night. Dad, what are your thoughts on the game?
My thoughts are they got beat. They got beat. Anthony Davis didn't even play, and LeBron James took the whole game over, along with some of his role players. and they ran the Knicks out of their own building. The game got out of hand at the end. They even put in Bronny James at the end, and the fans were cheering for him to score. And he even scored 2 points. Okay?
Yeah, I didn't love the cheering for Bronny James at the end. It's one of those things where we've talked about this before. Teams come to the Garden. They come one time a year, especially these West Coast teams. They show up and they play their best game. LeBron James had a triple-double in the game. The guy's like 39. So
No, he's 40.
The fact that
he's 40.
Is he actually 40?
Yeah. It's crazy.
So the fact that he's still doing that is incredible. The Lakers are a good team. You said this last week, that they've been playing really well. As far as I'm concerned, the Knicks have 5 games prior to the All-Star break, leading up to the All-Star break, where they can still have what I would deem a very successful 2025 to start the year. So Monday they'll play against Houston. Tuesday they're at Toronto, who they've beat up on all season. Saturday will be the big test versus Boston, and then next week at Indiana, and ending the first half of the season, or prior to the All-Star break, against Atlanta at home.
Yeah, but one thing cropped up last night. OG got hurt, and he had to leave the game early in the third period. He got hurt. They said a foot sprain. So he's supposed to be going, maybe he's getting an MRI. They said the x-rays were negative, maybe an MRI today. Okay? All of a sudden, he just, collapsed.
Without any contact.
Without any contact. Now, if he's
certainly
hurt,
concerning.
You got big problems. Then we can go back to what you were breaking my chops about a few minutes ago about the trade, because they gave up a lot of their depth.
Well, definitely concerning. I think at this point, given OG Anunoby's career thus far and his history of injuries, you've got to be able to plan for this. I'm not necessarily... Yes, the team is better with OG Anunoby. That was clear last season when he was out for a long period of time. And after the trade, that is clear this season, although he hasn't really missed time this year. It was only a matter of time as far as I'm concerned. But max contracts, you talk about it. This guy got a max contract, and he's very prone to injuries. So not good for the Knicks. I think that there are a couple of guys that can step up in the interim. But we'll see. We don't have a lot of news to go off of yet. But yes, not what you want to see from in terms of injuries. Anytime a guy goes down without any contact, that is very concerning, because you're just wondering how it happened and if it's something very serious.
And remember, the reason why the coach plays the starters so many minutes, because he doesn't have much of a bench. If OG is hurt, he is a key guy on this team. Next to Towns and Brunson, he's next. And the Lakers did one heck of a job bottling up Brunson and Towns last night.
Well, I think the key here is that Mikal Bridges is going to have the games like he had last week against Memphis. He's going to have games where he is scoring 20 points and also playing lockdown defense. I think
but he doesn't do that every game.
He is capable of it. He's averaging 18 points a game, so he is capable of it. He doesn't do it every game, and that's the problem. That's where the Knicks get themselves into trouble, because he's not doing it every game. But if he's capable of it, I don't see why he couldn't do it every game. I think now we'll start to see this is where guys need to step up. Cam Payne has been great off the bench. Miles McBride last year, when given the opportunity to step up, showed himself to be a very capable player and one that the Knicks wanted to take a chance on a very favorable contract for them, and continued to be that spark plug off the bench, really being the sole scorer for the most part, was the most consistent scorer coming off the bench. Now, who else does Tibbs slot into the rotation with OG out? That remains to be seen. I know we've talked about minutes. I think there are some players that are capable. And now, for better or for worse, they're going to be given a shot because they have no other options. Well, what I don't want to see is for the head coach of the Knicks, Tom Thibodeau, to go with a 7-man rotation.
No, he won't be able to do that.
You say that now.
The trade deadline is in about a week. They're going to make a trade. For who? I don't know. but they're going to figure something out and make some kind of trade because they have to, if they're serious about trying to compete for a championship this year, they're going to need some help, even before this injury.
Well, you don't really have to make a trade if you have a guy like Mitchell Robinson that's coming back from injury. That's a legitimate backup center that plays lockdown defense. And maybe you change the rotations a little bit so that Mitch and Karl Anthony Towns are playing on the court at the same time when he comes back.
Yeah,
he's done that a little bit with Precious Achiuwa, mixing him in, and Precious Achiuwa has played some really good defense when he's been in the lineup. So, and that's not Karl Anthony Towns' strong point, is playing solid defense.
No.
So that might be the trade that they need, is really just having Mitchell Robinson get back healthy. Now, I'd like to see him take his time and get back. We thought he'd be coming back in January. It's now February. 5 games until the All-Star break. So don't rush him back now. Wait until after the All-Star break. But when he comes back, I want him to be 100% healthy and ready to go, because I do not want to have this situation where he gets injured in April or in the first round of the playoffs.
Well, Robinson was supposed to be back. They said December, maybe January. It's February now. And he still hasn't even practiced full contact practice yet, which is the next step.
Right.
So,
listen, we're not in practice every day. The Knicks will be able to assess what they need and what's the realistic probability that Mitchell Robinson can come back and be a productive contributor to the team. But the Knicks have showed themselves capable of playing with some of the best teams in the league. Now, can they play with them for a 7-game series? That remains to be seen because of the depth and injury issues and things like that. But they're a good team. I don't think you need to make a huge wave in this roster. It's just a matter of how severe is OG's injury. What's the probability that Mitchell Robinson comes back and he's healthy and productive? And is there someone who can step up in the interim if OG's only going to be out for a few weeks?
hopefully he won't be out for a few weeks. Oh, man.
Now, remember that the All-Star break, these teams will have 5-6 days off. So at this point, a week and a half until the All-Star break.
Yeah, and then the All-Star break's what, like a week?
Right. So you're talking, if he's out for 2 weeks, not ideal, but you're going into this break now where you actually get some time to heal even more without the team actually playing any games.
Yeah, that could be good. The real culprit is the salary cap. You go out, you draft players, you put together a team, and then you can't keep all your players. Look at Hartenstein. Couldn't keep Hartenstein because of the salary cap.
If we had kept Hartenstein, we wouldn't,
you wouldn't have all these problems
now. But we would not have Karl Anthony Towns right now, and I prefer to have Karl Anthony Towns.
Why wouldn't you have Karl Anthony Towns? You might have still made that trade.
Traded. I don't think so. They traded, and they made that trade because that was rumored for like a year and a half, and it only happened when they truly had no center. Like, they had no one. So I'm not sure that they would have made that trade. Maybe they would have. I don't know. They don't talk to the media for us to know the ins and outs of what they've been thinking and that kind of stuff. I'm not sure that they would have made that trade if Isaiah Hartenstein was still on this team. And we might not
remember, they tried to re-sign Hartenstein after they made the trade. Remember that?
Yeah, because...
But then they couldn't pony up enough money to give him, and he got $10 million more with Oklahoma City.
But remember, Mitchell Robinson was hurt the whole offseason, so they knew that they weren't starting the season with him. They knew that they didn't have anyone. So, let's talk about UNC.
Ugh.
UNC, 2 losses this week. At Pitt, you mentioned Pitt was a good team. They let the game get away. And then at Duke, blown out, 87-70. Saturday afternoon.
And it wasn't even that close. Let me tell you something.
Well, they got blown out in the first half.
They got blown out in the first 5 minutes. They got exactly what they deserve. There is no excuse for the University of North Carolina to have put out the kind of basketball team they've put out this year with no big men. This looks like and just a bunch of undersized guards. There's no excuse for this. Times have changed in college sports. They're more like professional sports. Unless you take your checkbook out and make big financial offers to players, you will not get the kind of players you need, especially big men. If you want good big men, good wing players, Duke doesn't have a player. They don't play anybody under 6'6". North Carolina was undersized at every single position. They have 6'6" players playing point guard. They have 6'9" players playing forward. They have 6'7" players playing shooting guard. They have 7'2" players playing center. They have a 6'11" player that doesn't even play, that's on the bench, was one of the best high school players in the country last year. Okay? You can't operate this way. You have to change with the times. The way college football and college basketball especially, all these big schools have a general manager now who's constantly looking at rosters for his team and it's like a professional operation. You can't leave it up to the coach to do all these transactions. He's coaching. And then, of course, the coach is getting blamed for all this. It's not his fault. Now, North Carolina is looking to hire a general manager. Here I am.
Well, why didn't they do that before?
Because they haven't changed with the times. You have to change.
And so who does that come down to? That comes down to
the athletic director and
not just the athletic
and the
director,
president of the university.
That also comes down to the coach. This is the state of college football or college basketball. This is what we need. You can't just be like, no, we've got it. We're Carolina. We're going to get the best players just because we're Carolina, and that's it. That needs to be an honest conversation between a few different parties, but that does include the head coach, Hubert Davis. So, no, he's not having a great season, and I don't think that he should be blamed for everything in terms of he doesn't have a good team. This team is not good. Most of the guys playing are like 6'3" and shorter. So, this is the thing. It does come down to him a bit because he's sitting in the room with the AD assessing what do we need? What is the state of college basketball? And it doesn't sound like he raised his hand and said, we do need a general manager and we do need money to go out and get the best players. Some of these players that ended up at the likes of Alabama and some of these SEC schools were kids that grew up in North Carolina.
I know.
Grew up around the corner from the school. So they lost out on local talent that likely grew up as UNC fans, or at least with a ton of respect for the program, and they decided to go elsewhere.
One of Alabama's big men went to high school in Chapel Hill, and he winds up at Alabama. That would have never happened years ago. Never. Impossible.
Those are the situations where you can't lose out. And this will create a ripple effect because you can't go to your crosstown rival, one of the biggest rivalries in all of sports, and get blown out. While Duke has all of their recruits in the arena and you lose by 17. Now there is talk. What happens with the coaching situation? This will create a ripple effect because if they decide to, not saying that they will, but if UNC decides to make a coaching change, that affects all the recruits that you have. They just got the announcement from, the number 6 player in the country that's deciding to come to UNC. As far as I'm concerned, hey, I'll never turn down the number 6 player in the country, but the first thing I looked at was his size. And he's someone who's like 6'6", 6'7".
No.
So
Caleb Wilson, he's 6'9".
6'9". And what position does he play?
Power forward.
So he's a 6'9" power forward. That's too short.
That's fine.
That is.
Yeah, but
I'm not.
Have you watched it? I sent you video on that guy. He's good.
I am not saying that I'm turning down the number 6 player in the country, but they're now gonna bring in a guy who is gonna be better than who they have, but they still don't have enough of the pieces, right?
They need 2 more guys like the guy that like him. Okay? They need 2 additional guys like him.
They need 2 additional guys like him or a guy like him and a guy who's taller than him.
Yeah, okay. Well, they gotta go, that's where you gotta go to the transfer portal. You gotta take out your checkbook and start cutting checks. And what they need to do is they. And by the way, that money doesn't come from the university. It comes from donors. They have a big donor, Mr. Jordan, Michael Jordan. Go to him and say, "This is help us. This is what we need." Okay, and they gotta talk to the university president and the AD. Hire a general manager, and they are interviewing general managers, and one of the people that they are talking to is somebody we saw at Madison Square Garden in December.
Okay.
Breaking
So
news.
Mitch Kupchak is apparently being considered as the general manager of the
And
program.
if not him,
I'm glad
he can recommend some because he's 70 years old now. If not him, he could recommend somebody. But it's got to be a professional GM, former NBA GM, or coach. That's what you need.
I'm glad to hear that they're making moves to get themselves in a position to be successful. But as far as I'm concerned, they really dropped the ball and they're too late. So let's hope they can get it together. But it looks like this is going to be another season of them missing the NCAA tournament unless they go on a tear. And I have not seen this team to be capable of going on a tear. Now, next Saturday, they're going to play at Pitt at home. They let that game slip away earlier in the week. The ACC is not a strong conference, so it's not like you can pick up some wins that could be great for great resume builders. They've missed all their opportunities against the teams earlier in the season, and even the first game against Pitt this week
gave that game
would have been a resume builder now. So these are, at this point, it looks like NIT. And that's not where North Carolina should be. Okay, so let's close things out. What are you looking forward to this week? Obviously, the Super Bowl's coming up next Sunday. Kansas City Chiefs versus the Philadelphia Eagles, Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans. Dad, what are your projections on the game? Who do you think is going to win?
I hope the Eagles win, but I think Kansas City's going to figure out a way to win.
I hope the Eagles win as well. I also feel that Kansas City is likely going to figure out a way to win, and it's going to be really annoying for everybody.
Except for Kansas City. Except for Kansas City fans.
I guess we're both predicting that Kansas City is going to win, but we want the Eagles to win. Now, what are you looking forward to other than the Super Bowl this upcoming week, Dad?
Oh, I'm going to go watch the Duke lacrosse game in Jacksonville on Saturday. They played their first game this past Saturday and won in a blowout. And my man Andrew McAdory had 3 assists. And they have a game in Jacksonville. Jacksonville University just built a brand new lacrosse facility and stadium just for men and women's lacrosse. So I'll get a chance to check that out. It's about 80-something degrees in Florida now. So next Saturday, I'll be down there for that.
I'm jealous because this morning when I woke up upstate, I was upstate for a bachelorette party. It was 7 degrees. So it's supposed to warm up a little bit this week. Hopefully I thaw out. But I'm looking forward to these last couple of Knicks games before the All-Star break, obviously the Super Bowl, and just maybe spending some time indoors underneath a blanket watching TV in sweats.
You see that couch behind you, Swebb? Get it ready. You're going to see me in a few weeks.
Enough is enough. You moved out of New York. Like, enough is enough. You don't need to come back every other month.
Get that couch ready. See that? And it lines up right in front of the TV set, too. That's perfect for me.
I'll be busy. I'm not sure that I'll be available. You can't just show up. If you paid my bills, it would be one thing. But you're not paying my bills, so you can't just show up and decide that you're going to sleep over. You have to coordinate schedules. You can't just pop in whenever you want to.
Every time I'm around you, it always costs me a lot of money to pay your bills. You always get a few free meals.
We went to a diner last time, Dad. We're not talking steak dinner here.
Oh, you don't eat steak.
Fancy seafood
you want a steak dinner? Okay,
we're not talking fancy seafood restaurant here.
In Manhattan, there's no fancy seafood. You want a steak dinner? I could arrange that in Manhattan.
All right. So, do you want to close things out with the tip of the day? Tip of the week.
Yeah. Oh, and I'm going to see you next week down here.
We will see each other in about a week and a half when I head down south for the weekend.
Are you going to take me out for a meal?
No. But get your gift cards ready.
Oh, man. Tip of the week, Swebb. Oh, man. I'm worn out, Swebb. Now I know how you feel. You felt about, what was it, about a month ago when all your teams losing. We don't even talk about the Rangers anymore. What do we even talk about?
And we haven't talked about Man City, who lost this morning. So you know what I would say? When we've talked about NIL, you got to be able to adapt to the times.
You have to.
It's all about adaptability.
You have to.
And what we are seeing now from UNC is that they didn't adapt to the current climate of college sports. But that's not dissimilar from our lives in work, personally, professionally. You got to be able to adapt. You got to be malleable. So that would be my tip of the week, is be ready to adapt to whatever the situation is.
And you
just never know.
And you got to be willing to change with the times. You can't just keep saying, well, that's how we always used to do it. That's how we always done it. That doesn't work anymore.
How do we get better?
And how do we win? And you should always be looking to win every single day, no matter what you're doing. Okay? You can't be sitting around resting on your laurels or thinking, well, we always did it that way. Things are going to come back to the way we used to do it. Things might not come back to the way you used to do it. And in sports, in these college sports, they're not coming back, at least in the foreseeable future. You got to be willing to.
They're not coming back.
Right. You got to be willing to go in.
The floodgates are open.
And sell. Peyton Manning's nephew, that's the quarterback at Texas, he sat on the bench the first 2 years he's there. He just signed over a $6 million deal with Red Bull. That's the kind of money that these guys are getting now. I was watching today or yesterday a commercial. They had the whole Notre Dame women's basketball team in this commercial. I forget what they were advertising.
Well, regardless, we've talked about NIL. You got to be able to adapt to the
Right.
times. If we take that out of the context of college sports, in our lives, we got to be adaptable, because you just got to figure out ways to get better and better and not live in the past. So that's the advice that both of us are giving. We tag team that pretty well.
Right. And you, Swebb, somebody that doesn't like steak, you're going to have to.
I don't need to adapt.
You're going to have to
food
adapt
choices.
to that when you come down.
I don't need to adapt to my food choices. I'm always able to find something that I will eat on a menu. I'm not going to say, no, we can't go here. I will find something that I can eat, and I won't complain, even if it's stuff that I don't like typically, or cuisine that I don't like. I will go and I will find something that I can eat. I'm not going to say, no, we can only go to places that serve cheeseburgers. And that's me being adaptable. We can't be so rigid in our likes and dislikes to the point where we can only do what we want to do. So that concludes this week's episode of Dad and Swebb Talk Sports. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to follow us at Dad and Swebb on Instagram and X. Subscribe on YouTube and Rumble, and share this episode with a friend. We will see you next week.
So long.
Thank you for tuning in to Dad and Swebb Talk Sports, the show where we cover all of our favorite sports moments from the past week. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube and Rumble, and follow us at Dad and Swebb on Instagram and X. See you next week.